What's good, everybody? Welcome to the Action Network podcast presented by DraftKings. I'm your host, Chris Raybon. This is our early Super Bowl 60 preview show. Just to set the stage, if you haven't heard by now, we got the New England Patriots. We got the Seattle Seahawks. Seattle favored by 4.5. The money line is minus 230 in favor of Seattle, plus 190 for the Pats. The total 46.5. MVP favorite Sam Darnold at plus 130, Drake May at plus 235. I am joined by Action Network's Evan Abrams. Evan, I know you've been killing it all year with the data and the trend. So, I know you got just data for days for the Super Bowl. For every little prop. So, wherever you want to start, just hit us with something and we'll kind of go from there.
Honestly, I was just excited like a week or two ago when I figured out it was Super Bowl 60. I just love clean numbers. And ever since then, I've just been on cloud nine. But to be fair about that, it's the easiest thing off the top. And I tweeted this last night. It's just underdogs have done really well in the Super Bowl lately. There's actually a ton of different layers to go into, but just clean off the data since 2004, 15-7 against the spread. Now, the interesting thing is they've actually covered five straight. Which is the first five-game ATS winning streak in Super Bowl history for underdogs, which is interesting enough. And they've won three in a row outright. So that's pretty cool as well. If the Patriots would come out outright this year, that would tie the record in Super Bowl history. And I think importantly, when you look at the number now sitting at 4.5, when the spread's three or more, dog 13-4 since 2001, 2002. So I think top level, that's an interesting thing to look at. Obviously, not matchup specific, but kind of what you get in the big game. I would also say the other interesting thing, which everyone will point to, would be the long shot aspect of this Super Bowl and the big odds, considering that Seattle was 60-1 entering the season and New England was 80-1. So this would be really the most unlikely Super Bowl since we moved to a 16 game schedule in 78. But the only other example that really gives it any light would be Super Bowl 16, where you had 50-1 Niners and 60-1 Bengals. That was the only other one where you had two teams at 50-1 or higher. And listen, both these teams missed the playoffs last year. Like we haven't seen that since 2003 either. So this one has all the making of just a strange Super Bowl that is two really good defenses. And I think the other storyline, and I'm sure you know this, is kind of the futility of what Drake May's done in the playoffs compared to the regular season.
Yeah, and May is interesting in his own right because let's also remember that there hasn't been many, second year quarterbacks to
Sure.
make it to a Super Bowl. And so you had Brock Purdy, that was a loss. You had I think you had Marino one year back in the 80s, that was a loss. But you did get Big Ben did
Yeah.
win one in year two, but I believe there's something like 3-5. They do have a losing record, I believe, overall, which I guess you would kind of expect, but yeah, Sam Darnold, Drake May, they've had great years, but still not the two guys. I think if before the season, we did talk about the Patriots. I do remember, I think coming into last offseason doing a pod, you and I were kind of talking about New England, but still, I didn't expect this. So, it's going to be interesting. Let's kind of look at the conference championship games and kind of go from there as far as, now that we have, two playoff games for Seattle, three for New England. What are we kind of taking away from the playoffs in general, the conference championships? What stands out to you that you think is going to carry over and be a factor in this Super Bowl?
I just think something that's very difficult to quantify is kind of the different type of games that New England has had to play versus Seattle. So, it's easy to look at numbers and just say to yourself, okay, it was 10-7, and then the other game had like 58 points, and that's kind of been the theme with the AFC versus the NFC. But you also had like weather become involved that definitely changed the atmosphere in that AFC game. So I tried to sit here and compare, like, you have like a pretty high-powered offense in Seattle. You have it's hard. You have a regular season New England offense and you have a playoff New England offense. They look a little different, and I think we could talk about this in a little bit. But sacks has been a problem there, so I think that's one element of it. But the other element is the wind, like what they've actually had to go through, and the caliber of defense that New England has had to go up against, which you've seen the stats everywhere about facing top five defenses and 3 playoff wins. Now looking like he's trying to beat the top three defenses. Like there's all different types of stats out there which would tell you maybe it's part of what the struggles have been. But I believe, passer rating led the league during the regular season of like 113, now down to 84 in the playoffs. Pretty remarkable to see the drop off. And then you just look at the points scored. I mean, right now, fewest points scored, wild card, divisional, and conference championship game en route to a Super Bowl. New England has 54, fewest ever. Then you've got 2000 Ravens and 2007 Giants. I mean, those are not what I would call even comps for what this New England team is. I just think it's a bit of a different circumstances entering this game. So, I mean, coming away from the conference championship, I think it's a little bit difficult to dissect the different paths between the two teams. And I'm curious what you think.
Yeah, it's for New England. I think so first of all, let me say this. The interesting thing about New England is if you just look at the numbers, regular season, or even the cumulative numbers, New England 7th in DVOA on, total regular and postseason. Seattle's first. Seattle's 45% DVOA. That means 45% better than average. New England 16.5% better than average. That's on the year, right? So big mismatch if you just look at those numbers. However, what's really interesting is that weighted DVOA, which essentially weights recent games a little bit more heavily, throws out some of the stuff, way early in the season, first couple of weeks. Seattle, number 1, New England, number 2. So New England, despite the offensive struggles, they have surged on the back of their defense. Their special teams is really good as well. So I think what's really going to be tough to handicap for this game is what is Seattle going to do offensively? Because in the 2 playoff games, they put up 30 plus, so everything's looked fine. Darnold has rebounded. I mean, he was making some crazy throws. Looked like he was feeling himself in that Rams game, but the Rams defense, weakest unit on the field, so maybe that's to be expected. But that's where I struggle because New England's run defense has been so good. And I've been betting unders against them every single week of the playoffs, pretty much. They've just been lights out with Milton Williams in the lineup, allowing 3.7 yards per carry, about 81 yards per game, goes up to nearly 150 yards per game and 5 yards a carry with him out. So he's anchored that defense. And if Seattle can't run effectively, how good can their offense be? Is because in this Rams game, they didn't really run it too well. With Walker, he was pretty inefficient. And I mean, he looked good. He was breaking ankles, but overall, the run game was inefficient. But if Seattle's getting like 1-2 yard a carry, which is what New England's been holding, some of these backs to in the postseason, does their play action still work the same? Does their offense, can they put up points? Because I kind of lean under because New England struggled on offense and Seattle's defense, I think that was a McVay thing where I think McVay versus McDonald is that's like the best matchup you can have out there because McDonald was getting the best of Shanahan. So that just leaves McVay, but he was torching him on second down. Like Stafford was 10 of 13 on second downs. He threw a touchdown and 10 first downs on 13 second down pass plays. They also had 5 carries for 36 yards on second downs and 3 more first downs. So 13 first downs on 18 second down plays. That I don't think the New England Patriots are going to be able to replicate.
That's crazy.
That. Yeah. So essentially McVay was treating second down like third down, and he was also going like 1-2 personnel instead of 1-3. So he did a lot of things to kind of throw off Seattle, and they really couldn't get a stop until McVay just decided that, I think one of those plays was going to call a timeout, but they ended up targeting like Monkfield on third down and then Ferguson on fourth down. Until then, they had an 84-yard drive. That would have been a third straight 80-plus yard scoring drive to open the 75-plus yard scoring drive to open the second half. But it was just like an odd 2 play calls. But New England 14th in EPA on second down, 14th passing EPA on second down, and then 16th rushing. So they've been very mediocre. And so I don't know if New England is going to be able to get to, much higher than 20. So it really, for me, comes down to, can Seattle crack the code of this New England run defense, or can Darnold just put up a massive game like he did in this one, even without the support of a run game, because I'm pretty sure this is going to be Seattle's worst rushing game of the postseason. At least it projects that way. So that's the first thing I'm looking at. Any thoughts just on that New England run defense? Because it really has been lights out, and that's pretty much why we're probably talking about New England here instead of Denver, because Denver just could not run on New England at all.
Yeah, there's a lot of layers there. We saw Harvey get like a 9 yard run and everyone gasped
Yeah,
because it was
right.
like completely different. I'd also say, and I think we had talked about this in multiple pods entering the NFC title game, but no Charbonnet obviously had an impact there. Like he was efficient short yardage. Not having him in the game, I just think they're easier to defend. And especially coming up against this front with New England, I do think it's going to be a problem. Now, two things you also mentioned, and I'll hit on. So the total in the game open 45 and a half. I'm now seeing 46 and a halves, and I do see even one shop up to 47. And you've got about 65% of the tickets on the over according to DraftKings right now. So with that being said, if you're going to look under, I would probably wait. It's the freaking Super Bowl. I would assume people are going to walk through the door and not want to bet the under, even though if it is the right play. So I do see some 47s coming, and I kind of agree, especially if it gets to that 47, 47 and a half mark. Like those are really, really key when you talk about maybe totals under 50, let's call it. So that would be the way I would attack it as well. And here's the one that's crazy to me. So we had mentioned Sam Darnold playing well, and it's obviously very interesting to compare it to what Drake May has had to go through, but also very different defenses. But if you look, highest single postseason passer rating among starting quarterbacks entering the Super Bowl, number one, Matt Ryan. So 2016 obviously played super well and obviously blew the lead, but maybe, talk about leads and winning the game possibility. 2019 Mahomes won the Super Bowl, 2005 Roethlisberger won the Super Bowl, and then it's Sam Darnold. So his postseason so far has been literally top three, four in NFL history entering the Super Bowl. So basically being said is what you said. Can the run game and the pass game marry together, or will the run game hurt him in terms of not being able to run the play action, not being able to move New England's defense into a scenario that's beneficial? I think that's really what we're looking for here. It's fascinating just to watch the matchups because I really think New England's defense. I mean, I guess I'll push this back to you. I think it was easy to call out the Rams defense as the worst unit in the last game. If you look at the Super Bowl now, if you were to say best unit and worst unit, were you able to say that yet, or you have to look into it more?
I would say best unit for me, still the Seattle
Sure.
defense.
Okay.
Uh, Worst unit would be, whew, that's a little
Oof.
tougher. I mean,
New England
I'd have to say the
offense?
New England offense.
Yeah.
Seattle by the numbers, New England's offense is better than Seattle's by the numbers, but it's really hard to kind of, because there's a lot of schedule adjustment there for New England because they
Yeah.
played such an easy schedule. And, you know, just looking at them, they go up against two elite defense. Really, I mean, the Chargers are no slouch either. Not quite on that level statistically, but Houston, Denver, both top five defenses, 2 and 4 are Houston and Denver respectively in DVOA, but Seattle's number one. And again, I think what McVay did was it was uncharacteristic to their defense. And like Tariq Woolen, I mean, if he just doesn't commit that 15-yard penalty, we're probably talking about a one fewer touchdowns given up and, a bunch fewer passing yards as well. So I'd still say I'd still be worried about New England's offense, but at the same time, see, the one thing Seattle hasn't really faced in these playoffs and really much going back over, I want to say the second half of the year, is like a true scrambling threat like a Drake May. So
It's a good point.
that's kind of the past, I think, because we know Seattle, like there's guys are gonna be covered. Like they could play man, they could play zone. Like everyone in their secondary is super. Even Woolen. I mean, there's a reason Woolen was on Puka Nacua single coverage. You know what I mean? So it's gonna be real tough. Seattle's defense stepped up when they had to. Can Drake May's decision making be elite here? Because it hasn't always been top notch in the postseason, even though he's made some great plays. Like he's taken a lot of sacks, some maybe where he shouldn't have. And then they really, I thought, put him in like super game manager mode, and they were only up 3 points. Like I mean, they essentially punted like the last 4 drives before letting Drake May run like a end around, which he got by like 1 yard to win the game. But like they essentially punted on like every drive in the fourth quarter. even that drive on first and second down. So that does worry me now going against an even better defense. But he also has the talent to, okay, if guys are open, if guys are covered, he could scramble. His 3 scrambles went for something like 57 yards in that Denver
It's
game.
also
So
inside the tackles. You notice he does a lot of that running when it opens up in the middle of the field. I mean, obviously when he has to, he might go to the outsides. But to me, that's, all the wide receivers maybe manned up in certain coverage, maybe it's zone, but they're covered. And he basically scrambles for 15. And he's also pretty quick when he gets into the open field. He's running past linebackers. That's a little hint on what I'm looking for in terms of props early on. But to me, that is a main matchup here that New England's going to have to figure out. Like Vrabel's going to have to scheme something because I'm just not sure Diggs and Booty are going to be the answer to how they move the ball. And they're going to have to use Travion. I need Travion Henderson, I think, is got to be a really unique person in a real X factor, the way he places him. Like maybe in the pass game, short passes, like doing something to get someone with speed and open field. Like maybe there's something for Pop Douglas in this game as well. Like I think they're going to really have to figure it out because I agree they are the worst unit. And obviously it wouldn't be Seattle special teams, so that might be near the top.
yeah, and I mean it's also tough because I, I wonder, like, what do you think about, like, do we actually think Travion is going to bounce back usage wise? Because he had 4 snaps, he had 3 carries. Ramondre Stevenson played 60 snaps. So that and every week, so they started with the Chargers defense, 10th in DVOA. Then they go, Houston and Denver. Like it seems like the better defense they played, the less Travion Henderson
I
played,
just think
which
they're
is
using him wrong
weird.
though. Like I just think like every time you see him get the ball, they're giving it to him in the same situation you would give it to Ramondre. He's behind tackles, he's behind the line of scrimmage. He's trying to like it just every time you saw him get a carry in that AFC title game, there was, the tackles were moving back. There was 2 or 3 people already in the backfield from the line of scrimmage. Like you need to get him in the open field. I can't remember. It was either week 16 or 17. He had like 2 50-yard touchdowns. It was basically because there was open lanes. So I just think this is a Vrabel scheme, a McDaniel scheme thing where they just have to figure out a way to get him in the open field and not have him running those routes. I'm not really rush attempts that Ramondre is doing because they're just different backs. And the thing that's funny is like the entire season we've talked about Travion Henderson in the doghouse. Like this is way beyond the doghouse. Like this just feels like Vrabel has a preference. McDaniels has a preference, and it's not him. But in this game, if you don't use Travion, I feel like you're just losing a weapon, which is not ideal against Seattle's defense. So it'll be interesting.
Do you think he gets more than 17 and a half rushing yards?
God, that is so low. Honestly, if I was scheming the game, and then it's not me scheming the game, so this is about us predicting what Vrabel's going to do, I would say he goes under that. Just because I don't think the doghouse is going to change. I don't think the schemes are going to change. Like, I think he's just going to go with what he's done before, which is a lot of Ramondre, a lot of hopefully 3-yard gains, shorten the game because I think they have to shorten the game. If they get into any type of shootout here, I think they're in a lot of trouble. They've really got to hold Seattle to 20 points, 21 points, something like that, so that they can try to squeak out a win. So if I had to guess, under rushing yards, and hopefully for them, it's over receiving yards, and they figure out a way to get him the ball in the open field.
Yeah, I mean it's funny because they actually seem to like Ramondre even more in the pass game.
Yeah, so
Um,
weird.
yeah, but I do have Henderson a little over 20 yards. So I would lean over on that. Just I mean, if you for the postseason, he's had 24 carries, so he's still averaging 8 now. Obviously, if you weight it for recency a little more, you're not gonna get that at like an 8 carry average, but I have him projected for 5.5 carries.
I was going
So,
to
I
ask
mean,
that.
yeah. So it's the carry market is probably not the one you want to attack, but I could see, maybe like a long run or just a median. I think the market may be a little too low. Like it's not usual that any running back is going to get like a 60-4 snap advantage. I mean, that's Christian McCaffrey territory.
Yeah.
And the Patriots have been kind of nursing these leads, and it was. I mean, that second half was just all them running into stack boxes and punting. So I could see him. I agree with you. I could see him bounce back, but I also agree that we have been looking for it. It's a volatile projection. It's one of those things where I think you could, look, there'll be a ton of alt markets for the Super Bowl. What I mean by that is, you can bet, you can ladder, like if Travion's median is 17.5, you can go like 60 plus, 70 plus. If he breaks one long run, or, he gets like somewhere closer to those 8 carries, he could go way over his line too. So, because his median is kind of a volatile projection, but I do think it would make, like, he is a guy that I think there's going to be some upside in the touchdown market. There's going to be some upside in the alt market, in terms of, like that. And then he could get back on kick return. He was doing that earlier. If they're not going to use him on offense, they might as well give him a couple extra cracks on kick return instead of
That to me is the
Ernest
creativity that they need to
Johnson.
figure out. Yeah.
Yeah. But Vrabel's usually good with that kind of stuff. So, I mean, there could be a reason. There might be, I'm sure there will be all these like feature stories coming out, and somebody will probably dive in depth to it. So that could be a projection that that's going to change. But let's talk about the let's go back to the because we talked about the total a little bit, but just with the spread, you talked about how many underdogs have been doing, how many of them have covered, which is a lot. Do you agree with the line move, from 3.5 to 4.5? And are you leaning any which way at this early juncture?
Yeah, I agree with the move because I think I like Seattle in the game. I just think overall, from unit to unit, I just prefer everything that they do on the field to what New England does. I feel like, but again, and you mentioned this kind of with some of the statistics from that New England Denver game and some of, I guess, the tendencies in the drives down the stretch where it looked like Vrabel just wanted to punt the ball back to Denver. Like, how much of that do we just throw out the window? Because some of those New England, like the numbers are going to look so skewed based off of really game conditions in that situation. So I think it has a lot to do with the number. I also think one thing, and this is just a gambler's tendency trend, which would be a team who doesn't cover the conference championship game, the game before the Super Bowl, a bettor is not going to go to the window and want them to cover the spread. It's just a mental thing, in my opinion. So I think you're going to get a lot of Seattle money. If you look at even DraftKings right now, 78% of the tickets on the spread on Seattle, 58% of the money line on New England. Right now, 2 weeks before the Super Bowl, no one is going up to the window, mostly to say, hey, give me minus 230. So at this rate, if you're going to take Seattle, I think you're going to hopefully get the 4 versus the 4.5. Obviously, 4, 4.5, 3.5, all extremely key in these, especially with a total of under 47. But to me, I would assume ton of Seattle money on the spread, and you'll get like 55 to 60% of the tickets on New England on the money line. Just big game, a lot of people looking at plus numbers. But I think the number's right. I would say, once you get past 4, up to 5.5 is basically dead zone. Do I think it's going to get to 6? I don't. So could I see it close 5? I think it's possible because I don't see that number for New England bet tickets really coming down. I think Seattle's going to see really a ton of love here because they've played so well.
Yeah, I would be surprised if it gets. I would be very surprised if it gets to 6. I think I would
Yeah.
say probably somewhere in the 4 to. I don't think it goes down into the 3s, or at least closes there. But I would say, yeah, 4 to 5.5 is still that range. I would bet it closes in. I want to talk to you about the MVP. So we'll do that in a second, kind of related to what you're talking about with Seattle here. But before we get to the rest of the show, here's your weekly reminder to sign up for Action Pro, because only Action Pro subscribers get real-time notifications when Stuckey, Brandon Anderson, Sean Kerner, myself, Evan, any of our Action experts track picks in the Action app. There will be plenty of fun sweats this NFL postseason, so you want to get on board. And right now, you can use promo code POD20 for $20 off an annual subscription. Just go to actionnetwork.com/pro and use code POD20, that's POD20, for $20 off. The rest of the show is coming up, but first I'll throw it to myself for a quick word from our sponsor, DraftKings. The Action Network podcast has teamed up with DraftKings Sportsbook, where new customers can bet $5 and get $300 back in bonus bets if your bet wins. The next great touchdown is coming, and you can bet on it. DraftKings Sportsbook is the best place to bet touchdowns. To get started, use promo code Action Network when signing up with DraftKings. That's Action Network when signing up, and bet $5 to get $300 back in bonus bets if your bet wins. The crown is yours. All right. One thing we still haven't talked about coaches like too in depth, but I do want to talk about the MVP, Evan, because you mentioned Seattle. You like Seattle. I think a lot. Obviously, the public likes Seattle. I would lean that way as well. But I'm not sure where I fall on the spread yet. I'm going to make some adjustments because I still have to. I still am not sure how well Seattle's going to be able to run and how much that's going to affect them, because you got to get into the red zone against New England. But that being said, I think we both like Seattle, at least lean that way. The public does as well. You mentioned earlier, you mentioned off air actually that, JSN is, one of the shorter wide receiver odds for Super Bowl MVP, but
Yeah.
plus 550 at DraftKings, Darnold's plus 130. Right. So Seattle money line is minus 230. If you like Seattle, like I said, number one, not 100, like not super confident in the number, especially in the dead zone, because it is going to come down to, how many drives stall out because they can't run the ball. But I do think that Seattle's success comes in the passing game one way or another. So Darnold, I think, is probably a better bet than, Seattle minus 230. But I like JSN at that plus 550, because if you're just looking at the numbers, like, he accounts for so much of Darnold's production. And he had, 7 for 115 and a touchdown at the half against the Rams. Now he's going up against a tougher matchup here. New England has, Gonzalez, they have Carlton Davis. Rams do not have those kind of quality corners, but this could be a high volume game for Darnold and thus a high volume game for JSN. So are those kind of how do you consider kind of, targeting those guys versus playing, the Seattle spread versus playing the Seattle money line? Like, where are you on that?
Yeah, let me back up some of the things you said. So I believe JSN accounted for 44% of Seattle's receiving yards during the season. That is the highest mark for a team to make the Super Bowl. The only other comp would be like 42%, I believe, Terrell Owens, or not Terrell Owens, Michael Irvin, I think, in 1995. So we are in like an unprecedented territory when it comes to JSN. I think the other interesting thing is his odds, like you said, plus 550, plus 500 or so in the Super Bowl MVP market. That would be, I'm looking up right now. Yeah, so that would be the second lowest price for a wide receiver dating back to 2003 in the Super Bowl MVP market. Only Larry Fitzgerald was plus 400 back in 2008. So yes, those odds are super low. And also, I think it's probably warranted considering what he does to that offense, and looking at any other player to win MVP on Seattle, a little difficult. You'd need to see a journey from Shaheed. You'd need to see maybe multiple touchdowns from Walker. I think the interesting thing is this. So Sam Darnold sitting there at plus 130. There have been, if I look at it right now, let's see. There have been 16 quarterbacks since 2003 to be listed at under plus 150 to win Super Bowl MVP. 2, 5, 7 won the Super Bowl, and 5 won the MVP. The 2 that didn't, Tom Brady in 2018, and then Matthew Stafford when he lost it to Kupp in 2021. So I think looking
Edelman and Kupp. And
correct.
I remember that because I was on Edelman that year, and then Kupp was like a pretty, like, he was kind of like in like the other go-to in that game with Stafford. So I kind of feel like this kind of feels the same way with JSN and Darnold.
Here's my question. Here's my question back to you though. What does Darnold have to do to throw a touchdown or two to JSN and not win the MVP? There's got to be an interception, right? Or there's got to be a fumble. There's got to be some sort of turnover in the game, that because he has the story. I mean, JSN, obviously fantastic story, but Darnold's story, the turnaround, where he's come from, the draft pick, like where to get to this game, I feel like people are going to vote for him. So I honestly kind of believe if you're trying to set up a scenario here, and I'm assuming DraftKings and maybe some of the other sportsbooks might allow you to do this, but there's got to be some sort of SGP where there's a turnover in there for Darnold not to win the award. That's my opinion because the story is just too damn good.
I mean, so I think there's a lot of pass for Darnold to throw a touchdown or two to JSN and not win it because he's averaging 200, about 200, let's say about 240 yards per game, under 240
Okay.
yards per game. So, and JSN averages what? Let's see. I think it's around 100.
Hmm.
So, yeah, over 100, right? So, if Darnold hits his average and throws even let's say Darnold goes like 250, two touchdowns. One of them is to
Okay.
JSN who gets 100 yards and 100 plus and a touchdown. I mean, who looks more impressive there? I
But I
feel
think
like
I think it still goes to Darnold.
I don't. I mean, it could, but at plus 550 versus plus 130, I think I would take my chances with JSN just because there's really it's hard to see a path. Like let's flip it, right?
Sure.
It's hard to see a path where JSN doesn't go off and Darnold wins it. Right? Because like
Yeah.
where is he getting all these yards from? Shahid is like he's the what like the fourth or let's see, the sixth highest in odds. And he hasn't caught a touchdown from Darnold yet. It's all been on special teams, right? Kenneth Walker is the fourth highest in odds, and he's he's only 50 cents higher than JSN. And Walker, like we pretty much know, we pretty much expect him to be inefficient. So even if he gets touchdowns, I don't know that he's going to have the efficiency. So there could be a scenario where JSN could win it like Edelman won it, like where Edelman, I don't think he had a touchdown in that game, but
Yeah, I'd
like the
have to look
chance.
at those numbers. I'd want to look into those numbers behind Edelman and Cup and also look at how Brady and Stafford did in those games because I might be proven wrong just based off of those scenarios. But Stafford kind of had a similar story as Darnold did, right? This guy coming out of nowhere, a career achievement, welcome to the big game. And then you gave it to the wide receiver. But I was pretty sure Cup had like a pretty monstrous game, but I could be wrong.
Top had a monster game. Edelman though, 10 for 141, no touchdowns.
Okay.
JSN could do that. You know what I
He
mean?
could.
Like, and my thing is like, let's say Walker still gets at least one touchdown, but is inefficient. That's one less touchdown for Darnold. So
Sure.
If Darnold throws two and doesn't go crazy with the yardage, like he doesn't get to 300 and he throws two, and one is to JSN, or like both of them are to like, kind of role players, and then JSN still has like somewhere in the like 100 to 150 yard range. I think it's there's a good chance that JSN would get it just because he's also just so impressive. Like
Oh, yeah.
he's more likely to make like a highlight real play in the game itself that kind of sways people.
That's
Um
fair.
so yeah, that's kind of how I would attack it. But yeah, I think Walker is a little overpriced just based on the fact that he could score two touchdowns and still be super inefficient. And I
Yeah,
don't know if they give
two
him that.
touchdowns, 58 yards is not giving him Super Bowl MVP.
Right. And then also, I think, just looking at these odds on DraftKings where it's, Darnold number one, Drake May, I think, plus 235. I like that too, because number one, for a game, it's still within a touchdown. It's not inconceivable that the Patriots win this game. And Drake May, far and away, I think, would be the leading candidate here because, again, we don't know what's going to be the breakdown with Stevenson versus Henderson. But May, with that scrambling ability, is probably going to have to be the difference in the game. And, he also hit those 3 touchdowns against Houston, one on Stingley. So he can kind of make those highlight real plays too. So, he's plus 235. The Patriots are plus 190 money line. So I would, if you like the Patriots, I would go pretty strong on May. But what is interesting about this, right, is the top 8. You have Shahid number 6, Marcus Jones number 7, and then Drake May's number 1 receiver, Stephon Diggs, 8th. What does that tell you? that tells you that we talked about the under earlier. That tells you that the books in the market is concerned about these offenses because like Rashid Shaheed ain't done jack as an offensive player.
He's going to have to do a lot to win MVP in this game.
He's sixth in odds. And Marcus Jones might not register a stat if he doesn't get it like a return touchdown. I mean, yes, he plays corner and but like that's just the nature of the position. So the fact that those two guys are, 6 and 7, and like Kenneth Walker is, fourth, even though we expect him to have like a super inefficient matchup, and he's still, plus 600, and then Stevenson's 25-1. I mean, like just some of the discrepancies here to just kind of say it's like, okay, if they're just concerned about the Seattle offense in both offenses in general, just looking at these odds. So that kind of tells you where the projections are for the books and whatnot in terms of, and then after the, like, so Diggs number 8, Travion Henderson number 9, Drew Lock, the backup quarterback, is number 10. Like that.
What do you think? One question back to you. What do you think about what would Cooper Kupp have to do? Like, he's not going to be a big yards guy, but if he caught 2 touchdowns and had like 60 receiving yards, do you think that's something? Say JSN gets to 100, but doesn't make the touchdown grabs, and in the red zone they end up going to Kupp. Do you think that's even in the conversation, or would it just go to Darnold?
I mean, that's a Darnold like avenue, but Kupp is 90-1, and Darnold is plus 130. So like Darnold is kind of the bet you make where you're trying to supplement, like, okay, instead of going the Seahawk money line, I think the best move would be to kind of go like a mix of Darnold and JSN. Obviously you got to go a lot heavier Darnold, but that's just a way to kind of get some plus money on a minus 230 money line, essentially.
Yeah.
That's why he's overpriced. But yeah, Kupp is at 90-1.
I see some hundreds too.
The thing is, New England does have the corners. They can play man. It's like, I remember in the last game, who was doing the game? I think it was Brady was saying that like Kupp, they committed this penalty on him in a key moment in man coverage. And it was like, yo, you have the speed to keep up with him. You didn't need to hold him there. So it's like, I just don't know if he can beat enough coverage to have.
Oh yeah. His separation's terrible.
Yeah. So, in theory, at 90-1, he is probably underpriced. And, but there's so many just non-offensive players in this top 20, even. You like Drew Lock has the same. Ernest Jones is up there at number 11. Iman Warriors number 12. Witherspoon is those guys are all like at or before Kupp. AJ Barner, Booty, Henry, like all of the key skill guys for both teams outside of like the top one are just way down, further down than I can remember at any Super Bowl.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I just think this one's more interesting than not in other years, just because, at least from Seattle's side, I do think there's an avenue where Darnold doesn't win it, but the story is really good. And there's some big names there that are just kind of flashy and fun, like the Shaheeds. And I think you could talk me into a Seattle defensive player on their defensive line, given the sacks that get allowed, and maybe a strip or something like that. I find it interesting. I'm looking at one book right now where Eamon Worry is 80-1, basically same price as Travion, which is, for a guy in the secondary, like you mentioned with Marcus Jones, it's like, what exactly has to be done here for that to come through? That feels a little short.
Yeah, I think so. The interesting one, and it's actually sharp. They have Ernest Jones 75-1.
Yeah,
because he gets targeted a ton just because the Seattle secondary is so good. So a lot of times he's great, but he's just the weakest link of a very strong coverage unit a lot of times, and so he'll get chances to, maybe get a pick going back the other way. He's in the middle of that defense, so, would be in a good position to maybe pick up a fumble. But I agree. Eamon Worry he's a talented player, but a lot of times teams run at him. They're trying not to throw at him quite as much. Spoon at 90-1 is interesting because they targeted him relentlessly in the Rams targeted him relentlessly, and just looking at, since Love got back and like their whole secondary has been healthy, whether Witherspoon has been the guy that opposing uh defenses have targeted the most, which him and Jones. So those two guys do kind of stand out more, I think, yeah, than Imawari. And but I mean, it's the fact that you have Shaheed and Jones at 6 and 7, I think just tells me that it's like a crapshoot, and the books really don't have a good feel, and they're just going to kind of let the market. I mean, Jason Myers is
I was gonna mention
90 to
that.
1 right there with Spoon and Cup and Barn. And no, well, Barn is 80. Yeah, no, 90 to 1 as well. So it's like, what?
I think the most. I think the most.
the
My
kicker,
thing is this: the
the
most
kicker.
egregious price. The most egregious price is Shaheed. I think based off of just the number of looks he gets in a game, and the fact if he doesn't return a touchdown, I mean that those odds should be closer to like 80 to 1. To sit here, I see 25 to 1 in one book in the market. It's just that's something they're just asking people to throw away money, in my opinion. But maybe I'm wrong.
I think you know what? Somebody probably just hit it hard because so the one thing he does have, especially in a low scoring game, potentially low scoring game, is he could score a long receiving touchdown and a return touchdown. Like he's already had like 3 return touchdowns, I
What are
believe.
his odds going to be? And I haven't looked at this. Like, what are his odds to score 2 touchdowns?
That's a
Because
good
he
question.
even because at that point it's like, all right, I might as well just hit that market. I mean, probably if he scores 2 touchdowns, he wins the award, but I might as well just cash the ticket.
He's 35 to
35.
1
Yeah.
to score 2 touchdowns and 28 to win the MVP. So yeah, I mean, I think it would take 2 touchdowns. I mean, there is a scenario where he so what did he catch? Like a 51 yarder in the
Yeah.
last game? Let's say he catches 2 of those. Darnold throws like 235, like his median. And but Shaheed catches 2 bombs instead of 1 and returns 1. If Shaheed catches 2 bombs and Darnold hits his median, that means JSN probably hasn't done enough. It also could mean if Shaheed hasn't caught touchdowns on those bombs, it could also mean Darnold hasn't done enough. So I get it, but that's what I'm. It's more that it is egregious. Like the price is egregious, even given all of that. But I think it speaks more to the fact that there just aren't obvious guys that like you just want to throw above him either. Like he's, you know what I mean? Like that's really, I think what
Yeah.
stands out to me is that like, because Marcus Jones, I would say is even more egregious because yes, he's a great punt returner, but like he's at least Shaheed's a receiver. Like Shaheed can register stats offensively. Like Jones is just like, it's like you have to essentially hope for a pick 6 or something like that.
Yeah, Shaheed
So
is the rushing ability too. Like obviously
yeah,
there's a lot of outs, so I
yeah,
get it, but
yeah.
still, I think that more in compared to previous years, Super Bowl MVP is like a really fun conversation this year.
I mean, realistically, I think it's if I'm not trying to go long shot and I'm just it's almost certainly going to be Darnold, JSN, Drake May, like those, and Drake May, and I think JSN. I do like the price tags on those 2 guys, so those will probably be the 2 guys that I'm going to be the heaviest on, just in terms of like guys I think will actually win, and then long shots. It's tough because like Shaheed is overpriced. A guy like Marcus Jones would be cool if he was like 100 to 1. He's overpriced. So now and Top I just don't believe in. So you would have to start looking at Travion Henderson at 75 to 1 is actually interesting
Like what's
because
what's booty on DraftKings?
I think he is 110 to 1.
Okay, I see 125s in the market. I mean, that's a big play receiver. I mean, maybe if he scored 2 touchdowns or something like that, you're probably not going to get 125 to 1 odds on 2 touchdowns. And maybe that's the way May doesn't win it. I would see the thing that's funny is you've got where's Diggs? Diggs I have here at
60 to
like
1.
50 to
Yeah.
1. Yeah, but
60.
I would take Booty over Diggs in terms of like being able to win the award in just certain circumstances. Like Diggs could easily have like 8 catches for like 60 yards. be a big part of the game, but not catch touchdowns. And Booty could have like two big ones. Just I'm looking for a big play wide receiver and at like 125 to 1. I guess that's more intriguing than others.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind Diggs. I because so my thing with the way I'm trying to attack this board now is because usually I think we see not only are the top guys overpriced, but there's there's just a lot more competition, right? But this is a Super Bowl where there's a big kind of discrepancy between like the stars, like the few guys who are just really talented and their teams like top options that could win it, and everybody else. So like the fact that Diggs is like 60 to 1 in itself, I don't mind that either because I still, yes, I get it with Booty, but it's like against this defense, I think I still want the most talented receiver. And it's like Diggs is competing with
Probably.
Marcus Jones and Rashid Shaheed. Like Rashid Shaheed is 28 to 1 and Diggs is 60 to 1.
Yeah,
Like
that's
that
ridiculous.
is that's egregious, right?
Yeah.
And so yeah, I think the strategy, at least to open the week, if you're one of those people that just kind of likes to sprinkle as the week progresses, because these numbers will move. Remember how the Stafford and Drake May MVP odds kept flip flopping, but right now, I May, JSN, Diggs, like just those guys that are up there, they're competing with Marcus Jones, Rashid Shaheed, a guy who got 4 snaps, and Travion Henderson, the backup quarterback. Like I would just go with the chalk for now because the chalk is reasonably priced, and then there's gonna be some long shots that kind of pop up. Like somebody will probably have your Booty take, or maybe like a Christian Gonzalez. Like there could be even more guys that kind of get propped up and knock some of these other guys down even more. So like your favorite long shot, like let's say it's not Booty. Let's say everyone is like, oh wait, Hunter Henry might have a great game. It's like if Hunter Henry goes up, there's a good chance Booty goes down even more from
Correct.
plus from 110 to 1. So there, I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity that way to just kind of get the like. There's a big, it's like a big stars and scrubs kind of board, even though there just seems like there's no stars, but there's still got guys that are more likely and guys that aren't. So yeah, that's the way I'm attacking it. We'll talk about some props we like, but I do want to quickly McDonald's, Vrabel, two
Sure.
defensive guys. What do you make of the coaching matchup? Do you think there is an edge here? Because I kind of going back and forth, and I can't really call it. Like I love McDonald in every other matchup. Even against these offensive gurus, because I think he's the one guy that has shown the ability to match it. But Vrabel, I mean, look how he's got this defense playing, even though the offense is like just getting in its way a lot of the time. And just he's always been great as an underdog. I'm sure you have some trends from Bet Labs on that. Like he's been just amazing as an underdog. So it's like, who do you give the edge to, if any, in this matchup?
Yeah, I just think from a coaching standpoint, it's relatively even. Like, I think if it would have been a different situation in the Super Bowl, I might have thought one way or the other. Like, McVay's made some odd late game decisions. Like, there's certain things you could probably crack holes in on a few other coaches. To me, like these two teams, again, didn't make the playoffs last year. The job they've both done, the defense they've both put together. I don't really have a lot of negative things to say about either of them. I think this is way more about talent on the field and the players than it is the coaches, which is honestly kind of nice. Like I feel like I do have faith in both these head coaches. If you asked me, Evan, you have to pick one of them, which one do you trust more? It would probably be McDonald. Like going back to the Baltimore days and what we've seen over the last 2 seasons, I think I would prefer it. One stat I will say that I did pull, and it's more about May's quote unquote inexperience against McDonald's. The last 2 seasons with Seattle, you've had 10 quarterbacks under the age of 25 face a McDonald defense. They're 1-9 straight up, 7 touchdowns, 12 picks, 30 total sacks. These quarterbacks have lost 8 in a row, and Purdy in 2024 is the only one to come away with a win. So I do think if I'm looking scheme to scheme and trying to pick one of these coaches, I think the McDonald defense is going to be that top-notch answer to the question. But I think Vrabel said it in his post-game conference after they won the game, like, okay, let's have fun tonight, but tomorrow we got to figure out how to beat these guys. And I think that's what like McDonald goes into this game Let's just keep doing exactly what we've done. Teams have barely been able to stop us. Yes, New England has been fantastic with Williams and Gonzalez, I believe 17, 18 and 0, whatever it is in those games with both of them. But I think it's New England that's going to have to change a few things, scheme some new things to try to stay in this game and not let Seattle get out to a 10-point lead, a 14-point lead. I think Seattle keeps it neutral. Do exactly what you've done. Obviously, a lot of scouting to be involved here, but I would probably prefer Mike. Oh, Mike McDonald. Sorry. They are both
Yeah,
Mike.
yeah. I mean, Vrabel. So it's tough because the thing about Vrabel is he's been around this, with Belichick. He's been,
Sure.
the moment's not going to be too big. McDaniel, they do have McDaniels, offensive coordinator.
That's fair.
Obviously, he's been doing his thing for a minute, but at the same time, some of the things the Patriots have been doing in the postseason still do worry me. Like those drives against Denver. I mean,
Oof.
there's no guarantee. First of all, there's no guarantee you're even in that position if Sean Payton doesn't, if they don't miss that 4th and 1 earlier in the game, or they kick that field goal like Romo wanted. But I mean, I just thought that was a little too. I love the end around with May to end the game. That was great, but it looks good in hindsight because it worked. But you won 10-7 against a backup quarterback, and this is, I mean, your offense really hasn't strung together like a full game. Like, there was Houston was in that game, even with CJ Stroud going going straight Peterman. So I just wonder if New England doesn't get out to a lead, because they were playing with like Herbert played like Peterman, Stroud played like Peterman, Jarrett Stidham played like Jarrett Stidham. So like New England hasn't been tested. I think Darnold really is going to be the difference. And I just wonder, the coaching matchup is even, I think, in terms of like just mental capability, right? But the
Sure.
quarterback, yeah, that because McDaniel, Vrabel, all that experience only goes so far, like with those numbers you talked about with May. And then it's like on the flip side, let's look at what Darnold's been doing these last 3 years. Every team that Darnold has been on the last 3 years has won at least 14 games, has made it to the postseason. In 2023, he sat on the bench for a Super Bowl 49ers team with Kyle Shanahan. So been to the Super Bowl already. We forget that. And then last year, number one seed most of the year with Minnesota, just couldn't finish it off. And then this year, number one seed with Seattle. So like Darnold has that, even though he's not the most talented quarterback in this game, I think he is probably a better bet to make fewer mistakes or be coached up better. So it's like Drake May. It's like they may say, "Hey, we don't want to. We want to play with a lead again because that's where we've been having success." They may have to be more aggressive in this game than they've been, in these other games with the opposing quarterback just shit in the bed. And if they're aggressive, that's when you don't, May can make mistakes. Just like he give us and he take it away. So yeah, I think if Vrabel and McDaniels can kind of expertly kind of juggle that, like the May aggressiveness with, and just overall offensive aggressiveness with, and being smart with Henderson and, getting him more involved, but not getting like 8 carries for 3 yards from him. That could be the difference in the game. But as it stands, I think I agree. I think the talent and the experience on the field favors Seattle, and that will more than likely win out. And that's why I win Seattle on the spread. But we'll get out of here in a sec, but let's talk about some props. Anything you're looking at, anything you locked in already for Super Bowl 60? We're recording this not even 24 hours after the conference championship, so it is early. I know your spreadsheets are probably all over the place. I just closed like 8 Excel tabs before we did this pod, and I don't even use Excel like that. I usually use Google Sheets, so that's where we're at. But how do you feel about the prop market right now?
So last night on the favorites, I did say I like Drake May over 29.5 rushing yards. At the time, I had seen 31.5s in the market. There was a lone book sitting out there. So I did hit that. I just felt like, you know, we've watched their games. We understand how their offense works. We'll talk about Sean Kerner just locked in his first prop of the Super Bowl, which kind of goes into my prop, and I think it's good for what I'm thinking. But in my opinion, the May rushing yards, and if I need to, I think by the time we hit kickoff in 2 weeks, I'll be able to have even a 5, 6 yard middle based off of how popular I'm guessing that prop's going to be. So that would be number one. The second prop I looked at right away, which has actually moved a little bit in the direction I was assuming, would Seattle's second half. They've been a great second half team. Even if they start slow, I would guess this line is going to get a little bit higher, but it's gone up. So right now it is -2.5, -125. You got to lay -188 on the money line for Seattle. So I'm not sure I'm going to be diving too much more into that. I was hoping for it to be a little bit smaller. So off the bat, those are really the two things I looked at right away. The one thing I think most people might find interesting is you look at the odds-on favorite to score a touchdown in this game. Right now, I believe it's Kenneth Walker at -180. And basically, I mean, I looked at it. The favorite to score a touchdown in the Super Bowl has cashed in 6 of the last 8. It didn't last year with Saquon, who didn't
I
get
had him
there.
no. I had him no. I love the Super Bowl because you can bet no on
Correct.
touchdown, and that
Yeah.
Walker's kind of screaming a fade, honestly, to me, because I
Yeah.
mean, just because of
But
that
I was
because of
going to
that
ask you,
run
what do you
D,
think?
because of that run D.
Sure.
So I'll give you some numbers real quick on the New England run defense with Milton Williams. He's played 15 games, and then he was out 5 games.
Okay.
In the 15 games that he played, not only are they allowing 3.65 yards per carry compared to 5 yards per carry in the games he missed, but a 4.7% touchdown rate in the 5 games he missed. The league average, 3.5 usually. With him, 15 games with him, a 1.2% touchdown rate. So literally 4X's with him out, and with him in, it's less than half of the league average. It's like it's barely a third of the league average touchdown rate with Williams in over a 15-game, 331 carry sample. So yeah, I think Walker's a good fade. I think it could be a low scoring game, or I think you look at Darnold and some receivers and you do some stacks, because I remember last year Barkley's there was value on it, and it's hard to find value in the touchdown market. So yeah, -180. I would have taken Walker this game, like the Rams game. But
Yeah.
let's see. I'll give you I have the projection right sitting in front of me. Yeah, I would put him more like -150.
Okay.
So it's not egregious, but it
Yeah, to
is.
be fair, he was I believe 195 last night, so he has come down a tiny bit.
So yeah, he went back, because I early in the week, I think he was like -180. I waited, ended up getting him, like I think it was like -140 earlier in the day, and then I guess he got steamed back up.
No, that's 195 for the Super Bowl. So he opened at
Okay.
195 to score a touchdown in the Super Bowl, come down to -180. The other thing I was going to look at, and it's not up yet, I don't think, is they have markets for first rush, like how many yards will your first
Mhm.
rushing attempt would be. It's usually set at like 3.5 or so. I would be interested in Travion under. Like obviously a few carries, and obviously he can be super explosive, but from what I've seen, I obviously have to look inside the data, but just first look, if it was set at like 3.5, I'd probably be interested in the under there.
I would be interested in the under in every single running back in this game.
Yeah, there you
For
go.
first rush, seriously, because I mean, we know we already talked about New England, and then Seattle. If New England wasn't so good against the run, we'd probably be talking about Seattle. Although I do think McVay found a little success there, and New England, maybe they go. Most teams don't really try the 1-2 personnel against Seattle because they've been so good at it, and they don't put a bunch of linebackers on the field. Like they have all those safeties and corners, but I mean that still could be the best option versus throwing like you said, Kayshon Boutte and Mac Hollins against this defense all day. So it's the coaching. I do think the coaching will play a major factor in the sense that like coaching. I don't think coaching could win one of these teams the game, especially New England being the dog. Like they have a talented enough coaching staff that it could win them the game, even against the quality staff on the other side. But yeah, if everything is just kind of neutral and cancels out, I think it does favor Seattle. But I do think Drake May. I like that scramble. I have him at. I mean, I like that rushing prop. I have him at 33. So I agree
Sure.
with you there. I'd probably look at his long because Seattle gives up a 10.8% scramble rate. That is the highest believe, among all defenses. So yeah, they're number one among all defenses, regular and post, in scramble rate allowed. And, Denver was number 6, and look what May did to them. So, defenses that can cover, a lot of times you see scrambling against them. Chargers are also number 3. So May's been kind of playing a lot of these, and then Houston's just inefficient at defending them. So yeah, this could be another big game for May. I'm looking at kind of the other side of, some unders for rushing. Kenneth Walker, that was the first bet I locked in. Got his rushing yardage prop at 84.5. I believe it's down. It should be down in the 70s by now. Let's see. What is it? It is, 70, anywhere from 74 to 78. I have it at 73. So still a little bit of value there, but this New England run defense, again, I just think, Walker's already been a guy that's known to kind of get stuffed. And even on that touchdown run a couple of weeks ago, we saw him kind of, break it outside, and that could have easily gone for a loss. So I think you could get some negative runs with him, and to kind of supplement that. And there's a good chance that, Denver had to do it because they had a backup quarterback. So they ran a little more than usual. Still not a ton, but there's a chance Seattle goes pass heavy in this game, which does favor your Darnold call as well. So I like the Walker under rushing yards, the median, and I like his long rush under, especially if you can get it at 16.5. I believe he's been under that just over half his games. Now, obviously, increased carries does, bump it up a little bit, but the inefficiency against New England's only allowed 8 running backs, like tailbacks, all year in 20 games played to have a long of above 15 yards.
Wow.
Now, remember, they're facing, 2-3 guys per game. It's not just like they're facing, and I'm not talking about like in 8 games. I'm talking about 8 guys total at that position all year long. So like it's just, and Milton Williams missed 5 games. So like this is a scary it's a scary run defense. And Walker, if they post some props where, sometimes they'll post like these exact or these bands props where you can kind of, the same way you would ladder and over, you can kind of go for like, okay, Walker will get, like 40, like 35 to 50 yards or something like that.
Sure.
Or something like, I would look to that at some juice, at some like, some plus juice as well, because there's a chance that they either have to abandon the run or he just gets nothing going. And he has been a guy that's just known to go backwards at times. So yeah, that Kenneth Walker unders are going to be something I'm looking at. Probably the Holani unders as well, when those start, popping up, just because he seems to be used a lot more in that like Charbonnet pass game role in the conference championship. So I don't know that he gets a ton of rushing work in this one against this defense, unless, Walker gets hurt or something like that. So yeah, looking at the running back unders, and then maybe Travion's like the one guy I'd kind of go for the over, because he's not like an Isaiah Pacheco, right? Like he's not hurt, is he? Like I
don't think so.
Yeah, and
I think he just. I think there's just a doghouse sitting way beyond Gillette that he's been living in, and it's Vrabel just hasn't liked him all season. Like there's been numerous times where you thought he was going to start getting more carries as the season progressed, and it just went the opposite direction. So I think the worry is just he's just not going to see playing time. If he does, that number is. If I had to guess, and I could look back at this, that's got to be one of the lowest numbers he's posted all season. And we're at really the low point for him. So it's hard to like the under unless you know something about his total carries in the game. One question for you. I know we've been here for like an hour, but a long shot to score a touchdown. Like if you right now had to pluck someone, is there anyone you like 5-1 or higher or something like that that you feel like has some value? Because people are going to be betting on that. I don't know if you've looked at that yet.
Yeah, I'm looking. So Travion Henderson is right on that. You could get him at
sure.
550. Like him, because you kind of mentioned, bottom of the market for him. This is his lowest snap count of the year, 4 snaps. Oof. Previous low was 9 on October 19th. That was week 7, right? The next week he had 14 touch. No, wait, let's see. Wait, did he? Yeah, he had 14 touches he had 10 touches the next week. So he went from 4 snaps to 10 touches and 2 kickoff returns. Did not get in the end zone in that week, but the week after that, so like he went 9 and 14. Those are his 2 lowest snap counts of the year. And then coming off those two, 14 touches, no, 18 touches in the next game, 15 in the next game. So then that's when Ramondre went down. So, but he has kind of bounced back, is what I'm saying. And like it's been kind of it's fluctuated for like reasons that, like you said, unbeknownst to us, it's probably just doghouse, but it's also bounced back for reasons unbeknownst to us. So yeah, I would look at him like kind of towing that line. But if you go longer, I would say
I got one guy on my list, so let me see if you hit him.
Yeah, give me one.
I
Okay.
like, yeah, you keep going. Let's see if you hit him.
So the guy that stands out to me actually, just because he's been trending up, well, there's two guys, but Jake Bobo at 12-1. He has been trending up, and he could get some more of those because he's been blocking so well, and then being used in the red zone because Shaheed's not really a red zone guy. And then I think Hooper is interesting.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. Austin Hooper was my guy.
Because it's like Seattle's just so good all over the place. You're trying to get the matchup on a linebacker. Hunter Henry is like, a lot of people look at him as like, their number 2 option. I'm sure defenses look at him that way. And so Hooper would probably get the most advantageous matchup when he's on the field. And yeah, after McVay went, more with more 1-2 personnel, maybe that's something Josh McDaniels tries to copy a little bit. So yeah, I like Hooper, and like I would say Bobo on the Seahawks. And Eric Saubert is kind of interesting too if Arroyo is going to be inactive again, because he's 18-1. He doesn't catch many passes, but being the number 2 tight end, kind of a similar thing to Hooper. And with the Patriots, Patriots are 30th in red zone D during the regular season. Like, they are not good in the red zone, so you could easily see Saubert, get a couple of cracks there, down in the red zone for Seattle if he's that number 2 tight end. So yeah, 18-1 is probably too short, but I see his number coming down. There's like some 10-1s out there, so I'm sure that 18 is not going to last, probably even to people listening. So yeah, it's I would say Hooper and Bobo would be my 2. Anyone on the Seahawks for you?
I mean, honestly, I thought about Arroyo, but you don't even know his status. Like, I think I'm kind of obsessed with the second tight end in most of these games, because I just feel like some of these coaches like to scheme them up near the goal line, which is why I liked Hooper. But from a Seattle standpoint, yeah, like I had tried to look at, Velus Jones and things like that. Like, could I possibly see something, since you have no Charbonnet, where there's another running back in the mix? But I think you're probably right with Saubert and Bobo. Like, other than that, I wouldn't use Darnold. Like, I'm not sure that's good. And Halani is too low to me. Like, plus 450 doesn't offer what I'm looking for in that. And same with Shaheed. So those are probably your best options.
Yeah, I mean, Arroyo would be interesting if you kind of speculatively lock it in, because if he's active, every time he's been active, he's been the number 2 over Saul.
That's an interesting thought. Just get your money back, get it in early. Right. I like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think Arroyo is probably the other one that I would consider down there too, because there's not much like Darnold. It's he's not really much of a running quarterback. He's probably not down by the red zone, because guys are probably going to be open. So yeah, agreed. Okay, that is gonna do it. Oh, before I get out of here, scale 1 to 10, how excited are you about Bad Bunny?
Listen, he said it. I'll say it as well. Everyone will dance. I don't know. I've heard a few of his songs. It's all right. I'm sure I'll look into it more. I'm sure we'll have like a fun prop in some markets or something like that to look at. But if a 4, maybe 4.5, that'd probably be my excitement.
Do you ever watch those Sunday conversations with Caleb Presley on YouTube?
Sure, of course.
You ever seen the one with Kevin O'Connell?
I don't think so.
Oh my, go watch it. So at one point he's just like, I don't even remember how he gets it there, but he's just like Bad Bunny, and he's just like imitating Miami strippers apparently, and he's just like Bad Bunny, OnlyFans, or like something like Zelle. I'm like, yeah, it's just hilarious, bro. So, yeah, that's kind of what I think of when I think of Bad Bunny, but we'll see how it goes, and we'll be back all week, all the next couple weeks, leading up to the big game with more content. Of course, be sure to check out the Action Network app. Download it if you don't have it already. That's where all of our bets will be tracked as well as everyone else at Actions as well. And the Action Network podcast will be back Thursday. We'll have our whole Super Bowl player prop guide, myself, Kerner, Kyle Murray. No six pack pod this Wednesday. We're going to wait till next Wednesday. So we just have, lines that are going to be, a little more mature and, a little closer to the game. So people can kind of bet it that way, and we'll have all of our research done, but we will have the props, the first of multiple prop content coming out later this week. Favorites, business as usual, Tuesday and Thursday. Kerner and I will be doing Fantasy Flex Tuesday, so you can get our early thoughts on player projections there as well. So that should be out in about another 24 hours. And then maybe most importantly, we'll have our first 2 of 4 player prop release shows on a Friday afternoon live on YouTube and X. That'll be me, Kerner, and then later Nick Giffen and Grant Neefer releasing some props for the Super Bowl as well. So just a whole bunch of content. And then Evan, I know you always do just some of the best work on, just the data and the trends and all the primer with your primer. So people should look out for that as well. And yeah, that's about it. Shout out to our sponsor, DraftKings. That is a wrap for us. Thank you for listening. Until the Pro Bowl, let's get this money.